Good morning, everyone. First, I have a prepared statement, and then I will take a few questions. 16 days ago, on May 4th, Keith Williams was convicted for the attempted murder and brutal assault on Officer Denny Wright on October 14th, 2019. 14 days ago, on May 6th, I stood in front of you to discuss parolee Donovan Humphrey attempting to murder my officers in the early morning hours on Remington Street, just a few blocks away from last night's incident. Yesterday afternoon, a jury returned a guilty verdict against James Hunter for attempting to kill Officer Brian Sheridan by shooting him in the upper body on December 22nd, 2020. Just a few hours later, after this verdict, again, someone attempted to murder a member of the Rochester Police Department. Last night, at approximately 8:15 p.m., officers responded to the area of Avenue D and Hoff Street for the report of a group of females fighting. The investigation into this fight led officers to a vehicle that had crashed on Coleman Street. As officers approached the vehicle, 27-year-old Isaiah Williams ran from them while armed with a loaded handgun. Officers courageously began to chase Williams southbound toward Avenue D through the backyards. As they approached Avenue D, while still in the yards, Williams fired one round from his illegally possessed handgun at one of the Rochester police officers. Thankfully, the officer was not struck and is physically okay. A second officer returned fire at Williams, but did not strike him. Williams was then taken into custody without further incident, and officers recovered a 9mm handgun at the scene. This morning, 27-year-old Isaiah Williams will be arraigned in Rochester City Court on charges of attempted aggravated murder of a police officer, criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree, and menacing a police officer. I want to take a moment here to thank the men and women of the Rochester Police Department. Despite all of this violence against them, day after day, the officers of the Rochester Police Department continue to risk their lives to protect our community. I also want to take a moment to thank District Attorney Sandra Dorley for her continued vigorous prosecutions of those that bring harm against our police officers. The safety of both our community and the officers of this department continues to be my utmost priority. Even as we stand here now, the brave men and women of the Rochester Police Department are patrolling the streets of Rochester, continuing the mission to keep our community safe. And I'll take a few questions.
You know, speak to this. I mean, there's several officers and several officer shooting incidents that have taken place. I mean, these are your brothers in blue. Speak to that. What's that like for you?
It's a variety of things. It's obviously very emotional. You know, we're all professionals in this agency. This is what we signed up to do, to run toward gunfire, which is exactly what these officers did last night. And, you know, having spent 28 years in patrol on the road in various roles, you know, this hits very close to home for me. You know, I watch the footage with my staff, and as we watch, I can recollect many jobs I went on that started in the very same way and then unfolded in different directions as things do. It is frustrating. It is heartbreaking. I mean, I worry. I worry every day for my officers, and you know, they are, I mean, I release the numbers all the time of how many guns we've taken off the streets. These guys and gals are working. They are working hard. And I'll tell you what, there ain't no stopping them. They're working hard today. They're going to keep working, and they're just doing amazing work.
What can you tell us about 27-year-old Isaiah Williams, his criminal history, his background?
I'm not going to get into specifics right now, but I can tell you he is known to us, and he does have an extensive criminal history.
Have you ever seen in this data sheet, you've been on the job 28 years, have you seen this much attacks on police officers, these deadly attacks?
So I have never seen, and I've said this many times, I have never seen so many guns out on the street. I've never seen so many guns recovered on a daily basis. And no, I have never seen the frequency of attacks on police officers that we're seeing now.
And how is having the Monroe County Sheriffs, the state police, on the streets with you, is that helping at all? What's that looking like?
Absolutely, it's helping. I mean, we're only 1 week in, so I don't have hard data, but obviously, you know, we look at the overnight crimes every morning as we come in, and there has already been a noticeable downtick in our target areas. As we get the data and we have a little more hard evidence, we're certainly going to roll that out. But you know, again, we thank the state police for being in there with us. You know, especially during our staffing shortage times, they've really been instrumental in supplementing us.
And one of those target areas, I'm assuming, is the Avenue D area. I feel like us as reporters, we're in here constantly talking about that area. What are you guys doing to secure and, you know, kind of lessen the violence in that area?
So that area contains a few of our street segments that you've heard me talk about. Almost all of our incidents occur on 11% of our street segments. I'm not going to get into tactics or strategies, but you know, I can tell you again, you know, we don't do or involve ourselves in, you know, zero tolerance police work. It's a thing of the past. We work high visibility. Some of that is foot patrols, some of that's reaching out to neighbors, some of that is also looking at who are our known violent offenders in the area. What are they up to? What's going on with them? And also looking at, as we continue to do with the Marshals Task Force, and we have a second detail now that goes out and locating offenders that currently have pending criminal charges that need to be apprehended so we can get them going into the system.
It says the officer was not struck and is physically okay. But, you know, talk about the mental. That must be traumatizing. How are they doing just moving forward, getting back in uniform, going back on the streets after something like this?
Well, I saw them last night, and they were fine and eager to get back to work, but you know, very often on these things that night that is the case. And I can speak from personal experience. It's afterwards when you go home and you start to think about, you know, the what ifs. I'm giving them time with their families. I haven't reached out personally today, but we have a wellness unit, and we'll be making use of that. And again, that is exactly another reason why it is so key, I thought, that we roll out the wellness unit to help support these officers in what's going to be, as we can see, a summer that's going to be very different from any other summer we faced.
What do you hope to achieve coming out in the public like this, addressing the public? We want our viewers to take away just you're very frustrated, but how can we, I mean, it almost seems like we're speaking again and again, but how does this stand out? How is it different?
Well, my message is, you know, we're doing our part. We will continue to do our part. You know, I don't care what roadblocks get put in our way, we're going to do our part. But we can't do it alone. This is not a situation that we would ever be able to arrest our way out of, even if I had all the officers I needed. You know, there are, I mean, again, outreach, community support, talking to members of your community, knowing your neighbors. What are your kids doing? Checking your kids' social media. Who are your kids hanging out with? You know, I have kids myself, and I've said this more than once. You know, parents, check your kids' social media. Do you know who their friends are? Do you know what they're into? I bet you would be surprised.
Kind of follow-up question to something you said. 11% of streets. We've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't quite understand. Can you kind of paint the picture of where those 11% of the streets, how many streets does that occupy, things of that nature?
Rather than just, I mean, I know in my mind, rather than just spitballing, we'll get that to you specifically afterwards if you want to get with Lieutenant Bello, and then we'll make sure that it's accurate and everyone gets it.
Chief, have you thought of going to 2 officer patrols? I know you've done in the past before, and 2 officers in a car.
We actually are in 2 officer patrols. We've been doing it for a few weeks now.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.